Thank you very, very much. I hope that was worth the wait. Thank you very much for your support, everyone. We really, really appreciate it. This is a film made by fans for fans, believe me. So let's, without any more ado, let's bring up a few of our friends that we have here. So, our second unit director, who also plays a small but significant role in the movie, Andy Shirkus. Thorin Oakenshield, Richard Armitage. Bilbo Baggins, Martin Freeman. I think there's a wizard lurking about there, so Ian McKellen. There is also, we also have a surprise guest, which I thought would be fun to bring up on stage. We found Frodo out the back.
Yeah, that was exactly. I am equally overwhelmed by the awesomeness. Welcome, everyone. This footage is stunning. Stunning footage. You guys just saw over 12 and a half minutes of and I think I just want to take this right to audience questions if we can, because I know a lot of people waited and you guys have some questions, so let's just open up the floor right now. The button lady.
Hi.
I thought I was kidding.
I want to thank all of you for making the previous films and these films. This whole cape thing started with Lord of the Rings because I had to have a I'm a Treebeard hugger button and no one had one. But Peter, this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the question is, I could have swore I saw you in makeup in a shot online. Peter, where will we see you in the film?
I actually haven't shot my cameo yet, but I'm due to shoot it tomorrow when I get back to New Zealand. Seriously. I'm going to be a bit difficult to spot this time around, but I'm not going to tell you who I am.
All right.
I'm the handsome one, you'll recognize me.
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Julia Weld. My father is a huge Lord of the Rings enthusiast, and he's actually an elven linguist. He worked on the original trilogy. So I grew up with The Hobbit. It was like my bedtime stories when I was little. But I was very upset as a small child that there weren't any female characters in it. So I made him change a bunch of them as he read it. I made him make Gandalf a woman. And also I didn't actually know that Smaug wasn't a female dragon until like a year ago. Okay, sorry. My question is, what kind of like roles does Galadriel play, and are there any female characters you added?
It's a great question for Philippa.
Yeah, there are. Galadriel, as you all know, is the most powerful being in Middle-earth at this time. And we wanted to go in there and tell that story. We worked with Kate, we talked to her about the role. did a phenomenal job. I had my total geek out moment when she stepped up, and the Battle of Dumbledore. Let me just say that, it's extraordinary. But so she immediately brings a very powerful feminine energy into the film, and one of the reasons it's interesting that you did that, because we did feel the weight of it being a bit of a boy's own story. After a while, you feel the weight of that. And we did create a character, her name is Tariel, who is an elf, who is played magnificently by Evangeline Lilly Roybal. You saw her a little bit of, she's our redhead. We have, we created her for that reason, to bring that energy into the film, that feminine energy. And we believe it's completely within the spirits of Tolkien. You know, we tried really hard, and she wanted that more than anything herself. She didn't want it to be a ploy. We wanted it to sit in the world, and I think you guys are going to fall in love with it.
Woo! Thank you!
Sir Ian McKellen? I just wanted to say hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
What are you doing here, actually?
I'm moderating a panel at the moment.
With all these folks?
Yeah, I invited 6,500 people to come and hang out. It's such an honor. What is your...
Hi. I'm freaking out, sorry. You guys are all, you're just amazing, phenomenal people, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for doing this for the fans. My friend, especially Mr. Freeman, she's in love with you. She's seen Nativity like 6 times just because you're in it. Sorry. My question is, because in all Lord of the Rings movies, you've kind of focused a lot on using prosthetics and motion capture and models of the scenes, and I really appreciate that, and I was wondering if that posed any challenge to the cast and crew, like if there was any difficulties acting in the prosthetics. I know especially for the dwarves and the Hobbit feet.
Oh yeah, what are the I always wonder like what the Hobbit feet feel like to like put on and then like pounce around it.
They're good. For the first few days, it's a little bit like a fledgling duck, it's kind of finding your flippers. But after that, they're surprisingly easy. Yeah, they're kind of, you can forget that and just carry on with the scene and playing the character. But whenever I was having a hard day or a tiring day, where I had a bunch of other people just to look at and know that I was having a relatively easy time of it physically, because everyone in huge prosthetics and big costume rigs were being far more heroic than I was. So maybe Richard should talk about that.
We went through quite an evolution with the look for Thorin, and of course all of the dwarves who are kind of very clearly defined by their features. Working in a prosthetic like that was one of the biggest challenges, because you really have to work your face harder to portray what you're trying to express inside. And on day one, I really didn't think that I was going to make it anywhere close to 2 or 3 weeks into the shoot. But by the end of the journey, I couldn't work without it, and I didn't recognise the person underneath it. But managing the heat and the stench of sweaty dwarf was a challenge in itself.
Excellent.
Richard!
What is your, that lady loves you. What is your question?
Hi, hello. I love you guys. I came all the way from Brazil just because of you. Just because of you. I spent all my money on this trip, but it was worth it. And before I make my question, Ian, I'm your biggest fan. I love Gandalf, Magneto. You are the greatest, man. You're the greatest. I have a simple gift for you from Brazil. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, make sure I get that.
Thank you very much. It's a t-shirt signed by Anderson Silva. Is important for me, and I would like to give it to you.
Oh wow.
So my question is for Peter. I gotta know this. Will you make a movie about Silmarillion?
I think the chances of me living till I'm 110 are very remote. But the Silmarillion is totally owned by the Tolkien estate. It's not owned by Warners or MGM like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are. So, and I don't think the Tolkien estate like these movies at all. So, I wouldn't imagine that the Silmarillion's going to go anywhere for quite a long time.
Sorry, Brazil.
Thank you, guys are awesome. Donkey Kong is awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming.
My question is for Martin, but first I just wanted to say, Sir Ian McKellen, I've grown up with your acting, Gandalf, Magneto, whatever, and it's just, your performances will always be very, very special to me, so thank you for that. My question for Martin, though, is, were you, like, intimidated or maybe under pressure because you're joining such an ambitious project that's already been established with so many other actors and people who worked on the previous films?
In all honesty, it might sound a bit disingenuous to say, but I honestly didn't feel a huge amount of pressure. I certainly didn't feel intimidated. Once I'd met Peter, Fran and Phil, I felt relaxed with them. I felt they were recognisable human beings. They weren't trying to impress me. They weren't trying to do that stuff to me, which sometimes people can do, which is like you realise, you know, how lucky you are, kind of thing. They weren't doing that to me. They just wanted me to be in the film, and that really made me want to be in the film. And obviously, you can't really take intimidation or pressure to work with you, you know, because you won't do your best work and you won't do your best playing, which is an actor's job. So I don't, you know, when you're doing scenes and when you're just going to work day to day, you're not thinking about this. I mean, you'd go mad if you were thinking about how's Comic-Con going to react to the way I choose to move that bottle or whatever. You know, it's very remote, you know, when you're actually doing the work, and it's a friendly place to work as well. You know, it's its own little world, Wellington, and Wellington. And it feels like a sort of special little place where these films are made, where, you know, your only job is just to go along and enjoy it and do as best you can. I can honestly say I had to find my way into it. It's not like I just hit the ground running and there was Bilbo. I had to find my way, and between me and Pete we negotiated, and, you know, he usually won. But no, I never felt intimidated by it at all. Thank God, you know, because it's just meant that I was able to hopefully do my job. You know.
Excellent. I'm curious, Elijah, have you seen the footage before? Have you seen anything? Did you watch?
Yeah, I watched that. I stood right there.
What did you think?
I was blown away. Extraordinary. I mean, the footage as well was it's incredible, but it has these amazingly emotional moments. And that's, I think, at the heart of what Peter does in his storytelling and what Philippa and Fran write, and to see that presence in this footage, because I'm so distant from this truly. I really went to New Zealand for a month last year to do a bit of work, but it's beautiful. I was made to feel emotional watching that footage, and to see everyone here, it's wonderful.
I mean, and I think, you know, the reason that everyone has a story to tell before they ask their questions is because this is such an emotional story for people, and everyone connects to it on such a personal level. And I think that's why there's so much, like, you know, here's how this affected me first before I ask my question, which is a testament to the work. What is your name, sir?
My name is Alex. I come all the way from the border, Tijuana.
All right. All 20 miles away. All the way.
First, I want to thank Ian for last night visiting.
It was nice for me too, great.
And my question is for Peter Jackson. Me and my sister are great admirers of yours. I mean, we admire your work. And my question is, what is the process to select the scenes that will be in the theater and then the ones will be in the extended edition?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. People often assume that we shoot scenes for the extended cut, you know, that the scene is somehow earmarked at the beginning as not for the movie, which is not true at all. I mean, you literally write the script well, in theory, you're supposed to write the script before you start shooting, but it never quite works that way with us. We write the script as we're shooting, and you shoot, and you shoot some more, and you know, the scenes, the stories develop. I mean, it may be that we write a scene halfway through the shoot that we think we need to tell some of the story, and so anyway, it's very organic, and it's not until you get to the very end and you can start to look at a cut assembly of the film that you start to realise where there's repetition, where there's slow patches, where there's, you know, and you basically, look, at the end of the day, you know, you end up with a film that's too long. And so, for what the studio and the distributors need, you need to trim it down a little bit, which we try and do. We're not very good at making short movies, unfortunately. Skill I've never mastered, but anyway, you kind of end up with, you end up with a theatrical film and at a length that you think is what it should be for the experience, and then you look at what got cut out. And we don't put everything back in because, you know, you literally cut out scenes that you don't need and are of not a huge amount of value in hindsight, but when we cut scenes out that have nice character moments or nice further information for the story, then we love to put those in the extended cut. So it's a very organic process. You don't really know until the very end what's going to end up in the extended cut. But there'll certainly be extended cuts of these films, I'm sure.
What, I even did a little Comic-Con eyeball on it too. Did you notice that on the set?
Very detailed.
Thank you. Actually, we haven't heard from Andy yet. Andy, I mean, I think, you know, anything. What is this like, you know, coming back?
Well, let's just start. I was only supposed to be coming back for 2 weeks to play Gollum again, which I was very much looking forward to. And then about a month before I was about to come down to New Zealand, I get an email from Fran who says, Andy, I know you've probably got something on, but people would like you to come direct the second unit, and so would you mind coming down for a year and a half? Now, it's not unusual to do that sort of thing in this company, and of course, once I picked myself up off the floor, I was on that plane, of course. I mean, it was a remarkable and extraordinary experience for two counts. One obviously working with Martin, who I've wanted to work with for a long time, and to get the chance to play opposite him for that scene, which was a great experience, and was the first thing to be shot in the movie actually. We spent 2 weeks shooting the entire scene. A number of times Pete wanted to let it feel like a theatre piece where we could really play off each other, and Martin could find the character of Bilbo, and it was a really amazing way of working, and it was terrific. And then I began the process of jumping into the director's chair, putting on the 3D glasses, getting to grips with 48 frames a second, a crew of 160 people, cranes, technocranes, a schedule, dwarf doubles, scale doubles, stunt doubles, a schedule that kept changing every two minutes, and it was a huge film education for me, and enabled by the greatest mentor possible. Peter's been an immense part of my life for the last 12 years, and Fran and Philippa, they've given me such incredible opportunities, and I will eternally be grateful to them. They've honestly made a massive difference, and to be entrusted with that position was a dream to behold. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Could you just do the voice? I'm sorry, I made it. For fuck's sake, do You said you weren't gonna whore yourself, you said it! But you got in front of 6,500 fucking people, what are you gonna do, precious?
Man, that ring changed you, man. We have time for one more question. What is your question, man?
Well, I camped out overnight for my first time in 8 years with all of these lovely strangers. It was awesome.
my question is primarily for Martin. I think that part of the lasting appeal of The Hobbit is this universal story of an ordinary person overcoming not just extraordinary circumstances, but his own fear and self-doubt. And I'm curious whether you drew on any personal experiences to understand his motivation for stepping over that threshold.
Not directly, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you. But only in the sort of universal human sense of, you know, you can empathise with people who we all have fear, and we all have reservations, and we all have places that we're scared to go, you know, whether they're internal or whether they're external. So I mean, it's certainly something I can relate to. I mean, as part of your job as an actor is just to be relatable to things anyway. And I guess, yeah, beyond that, part of it is just casting. You know, I didn't cast myself in it, so, you know, whatever they saw, that's they. Thank you. Was, you know, they thought would be helpful to play Bilbo, but no, it was more kind of, I'm a big believer in knowing what play you're in, you know, and in this play I have to sort of be, in a way, the eyes and ears of the audience, you know, because I'm the nearest thing to an audience member that there is in the film, really. I think Bilbo has to be relatable to, has to be empathetic, and so my job partly is to relay that by just being open and just having a certain vulnerability, having a certain wit and a certain lightness of touch. It can't be too heavy, it can't be too riven with anything. So yeah, I mean, I just turn up.
Well, you guys have been... Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to say one more thing?
No, I'm just saying thank you.
Oh, all right then. Sorry. Everything's ruined. Let's go home. You guys, you've been more than generous with your time and your footage. Please, you guys,